Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is Keith Smith, and Keith is here today to talk about Caldwell Men's Chorus.
That's right, Paige.
Welcome, Keith.
It's nice to be here as always.
So, Caldwell Men's Chorus, how long have they been, I guess we would call, on pause?
Okay, we start back rehearsing. We rehearse on Tuesdays, and it's September the 13th, and that will be exactly, I counted it, 903 days since our last rehearsal,
Wow.
which is, I think, March 24th, 2020. Mm-hmm. And we knew COVID developed so quickly, and we had a big concert scheduled that April with about 25 women singing with us and the Hickory High School Chorus singing with us. And we have mutual music we worked on together. Steve and I, he's moved away now. I can't think of Steve's last name right now, but Steve's moved to Florida. Out of sight, out of mind,
Oh,
right?
that's it.
He's a great guy. But anyway, we knew the writing was on the wall, but we tried to hold on as long as we could. But I had a feeling that night when we left that it could be our last night of rehearsal until now. We didn't know when, and we were just in limbo. And so the guys took their music with them in good faith, so they still have asked them when we come back in September to please bring their folders back with the music in it. But we had this big concert with a lot of special music scheduled. It all went on pause. And when we come back, we're going to start working again with women singers, and with high school choruses and college groups, and which we've done over the years. But we're just going to start back with a simple concert of just us, and it's November 19th, if you want to put that on your calendar. That's the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Saturday before Thanksgiving. Where will it be?
And it'll be at Lenoir Presbyterian Church. They're so good to let us use their space to rehearse, and our concerts are there. We have a spring concert and a fall concert, or had up until everything had been disrupted, and we hope to resume that. But they've always been so supportive, and we sing there for one service to them in the spring and in the fall too, as a very minimal payback for how good they are to us, but we appreciate it. And we sing other places too, but that's our main thrust, and that's where we rehearse. And so it's been going on. The group's been singing since around 95, and I've been there. This is my 17th going into 18th year with the group. Of course, the last two we haven't done anything, but
Right.
still. So I'm very excited about getting back. We miss our music, and I think the community misses us, the ones who come see us. And I still say we're the best kept musical secret in Western North Carolina.
So let's talk about people who don't know much about the men's chorus. How many men do you have?
It varies from, we've been as low before as 16 or 18. We average around the low 20s now. I think when we come back, we're going to have about a high 20s, like maybe around 28. We could have, I think, about 4 or 5 brand new members coming in, a couple coming back after being gone for a few years, even before COVID. So I'm very excited about the balance. And men's chorus is just like in a balanced chorus. If you have men and women, it's usually SATB. That means soprano, alto, tenor, bass. In men's chorus, you have 4 parts, and it's TTBB. So it's first tenor, second tenor, baritone, and bass. And one day I said to the basses, I said, okay, man, we're going to let the tenor sing. Now, I thought that didn't come out right. But we have, if you sing in the group, you have to be able to sing parts. You can't just sing the melody an octave lower. You got to be able to hear and sing close harmony. And so we have some very talented men. They're all volunteers. They do it because they love it. And many of them direct music, have or still do direct music at their churches, or have been school teaching musicians or chorus leaders. Mr. Caldwell always used that example. He was my high school choral director. Now he sings for me, so that's all come full circle. He's 82 now.
82.
He's one of the older members of our group. But we've ranged in age from 14 to mid-late 80s. And I think now probably our youngest members are in their 30s. And it's always a process of trying not to age out. I mean, we want older men to sing and continue to sing, but we want to infuse it with youth. That's one thing we're always seeking.
So if someone's interested, if a man is interested, he can sing parts. How does he get involved with the men's chorus?
He needs to call me. You can call me. We can put a number on the board. It's 322-3169. And, you could come to a rehearsal to watch, and then but that doesn't mean you're going to be automatically involved. But I need to listen to some. If I know a lot of people's voices, and I know if they can fit or not from singing with them in other endeavors. But if I've never heard them before, I would need to hear them sing and match pitch and see what part they sing and what their voice is like. But again, the thing that ties us all together, besides people being musically talented, is that infusion of love. People love to do this, and it's a lot of camaraderie. And I think now, I hope now, that after the layoff, and we've sung some for things, various things with other people, but as far as just being an official group singing, we haven't done it in over 2 years. But I think one of the things, as I said, that makes it special is that we all love it. But I think people have missed it, and I think maybe they realize not to take it for granted. I hope that's the case. Now, other people may say, gosh, I have my Tuesday nights free. I can eat bonbons and watch TV, or I may not go back. But I think most people really miss it, and they're looking forward to getting back. And we don't take it for granted anymore.
You miss the camaraderie as much as the music.
That's right.
Speaking of the music, what genres of music do you perform?
Yeah, we've always had a vast array of music, very eclectic. When I first came in 2006, I think my intention might have been, because of my background, to be a little bit more in a classical direction. And we certainly do classical pieces, but I soon learned that that's not the one thing that we do. We'll do a piece here and there, but we'll do Irish folk music, we'll do English ballads, we'll do American ballads, we'll do both sacred and secular music, we'll do hymns, we'll do patriotic music, we'll do show tunes, and not just but we do those things. So we got a big array of everything. And so I learned early that balance is what both the men are seeking to sing, and I think what people are seeking to hear from us. I sang with the Hickory Choral Society for many years, and they're a wonderful group, but you may go there and hear a piece in German for 20 minutes, and with us it's mostly English. We do a little bit of language once in a while, foreign language, but it's generally not that long of pieces, and there's a balance. Sometimes the concerts have a theme, but a lot of times there's a balance of different types of music.
Have you selected the music for the November concert? Can you give us just a taste of what we might hear?
I'm kind of going in different directions there.
Okay.
You know, we had our folders, as I said, ready to go with that concert in April of 2020, and they took that music home. We'll keep a lot of that music. There's like probably 6 or 8 pieces, but we're going to infuse it with some things, maybe do some favorites. One thing I want to talk about are the people in memoriam who have passed away, but Tom Davis, who was one of our stalwart members, he was there when I came, and just I love Tom. He was always there to serve and do anything you ask him to do. He really did like the piece Away from the Roll of the Sea, but it became a big joke that we overdid it. And every time we did it, we'd say we're doing this for Tom. So somebody said we need to sing that and dedicate it to him in all sincerity, this concert. But we lost this year, not from the beginning of COVID, but this year, 2022, in January, February, March, and April, 4 months, we lost 4 of our singers. And of course, Greg Knight, our accompanist, and I was going to say that a minute ago when we talked about all the different styles of music that we do. He could play anything. And you know, there are so many wonderful musicians and accompanists, and we'll find our niche with that. But no one's like Greg, and he can play anything, and so it'll be more challenging from that standpoint. But we lost Greg, we lost Tom Davis, who I just mentioned. We lost Dale Whittington, who was a former choral director for years and years, and a friend of mine, was my first music teacher growing up. And we lost a guy named Bernaldo Evangelista, who was in Caldwell County for years, but he had been in Hawaii for several years, and he passed away, I think, in early April, sometime like that. So I was glad to finally stop that streak of every month losing someone. Right. It's just devastating. But we will sing in honor of those gentlemen. And then we're changing the guard a little bit, too, with our officers. Our slate of officers is going out. We have new officers, and Jerry Brooks in particular, he was our treasurer and did so much to raise money for us, and also sang in the group. And he's retiring now, both as treasurer. He's put in a lot of service for many years, and as a singer, because his health is not the greatest. He's fine, but he just can't really come and sing every week. And then Tim Boone was our president. He's rotating out. And Cheryl German was our secretary, and he's rotating out. And then Alan Norrod is going from vice president to president of the group. And then our new infusion, all tenors, Doug McCowan and Jonathan Duncan and Glenn Neal. So looking forward to working with them. They've all sung with the group for several years. So we're looking to make a good continuation at the same time as having kind of a new start with everything, a fresh start.
Can you tell me about some of the other longtime members, some familiar faces folks may see
Sure.
in the chorus?
Well, Brian Clark, who's a tenor soloist, and a lot of people identify with him through the men's chorus. He's been there many years, well before I was ever there. And Rankin Whittington was a founding member as well as, or a beginning member, charter member, as well as Mr. Caldwell came in right after that. And Rankin sang with us for, like I said, ever since I've been there the whole time. And his wife Sandy has always been our page turner and assistant to Greg, and now she'll be having to start fresh with that too. But she's a great lover of music and a good musician herself. And she's been involved for many years, not as long as Rankin. And Doug Saunders has been there off and on, Bradley Davis, Alan Nora. We got some newer members like Ken Twing and Kevin Parrish. Reggie Green has been there for a good solid while, and Cheryl German, whom I mentioned. Those are Trev Moore, has been a steady, and Bob Johns, and I mentioned Doug Saunders, I think. Doug Saunders and Doug McCowan, both the two Dougs. And they called, one time somebody misspelled Doug's name on his name tag, Doug Saunders. And they had Dog Sanders. And I said, you left both the U's out. give that guy some U's. So we called him Dog for a while. And we also have a guy who had sang with us before, and I hope we'll get to come back. He was traveling a lot with business, but that's Tony Rupert. And Mr. Cogdell used to, at first he made the mistake of calling Tom Tony and Tony Tom, so that became a joke. And after a while, even though we knew better, we would joke about that. So Tony Tom, we're hoping to have him back, especially after having lost our Tom, the real Tom. And David Bigelow, and Andrew Casturo, younger guy, but he's been there for many years. I'm leaving some out.
I know you're leaving some out, but it's just good. I think people like to see friends, co-workers, colleagues, people they recognize, and you've mentioned several names that I definitely recognize.
And we talked about that with theater, how you see people, and maybe you see them in a surprising capacity. You've not been used to seeing them in that regard. So, but our sound is very strong, and that leads into one of the main things I wanted to tell you. I developed a friendship and a dialogue with Matthew Troy, who is the director, maestro, the conductor of the Western Piedmont Symphony. Fine man and a fine musician. And he's talked to me, he's asked me to be involved in helping maybe spread word about the symphony into Caldwell County, because his goal, and the president of the board there, and many people, one of the things they're looking at is they don't want people to continue to have this concept that just because music is classical, it's stuffy or inaccessible. That's been one of my things for years. I say, we put classical music up on a shelf, or the Bible or Shakespeare literature, and it's like we're afraid to embrace it, when I think it was intended for us to get it down dusty in all its forms and embrace it. And Matt certainly is a fine musician, but not a stuffed shirt at all. And in fact, they did a concert of Led Zeppelin music recently at the Royal Civic Center. So he wants to bring other types of music into Caldwell County to expand the symphony, but also to show Caldwell County that there are other types of music, and then maybe people will be more open to embracing some classical music and understand that it doesn't have to be highbrow or above them or anything like that. So when at Greg Knight's memorial service, Matthew came. The first concert that Matt directed several years ago was, when he first came here, was a concert of European nationalistic music, and Greg played a concerto by Edvard Grieg. And I was impressed with Matthew and with Greg, certainly. And Matthew, as I said, he wants to be accessible to us, but he came to Greg's service, memorial service, and our men sang. Now, we didn't sing officially as the Caldwell Men's Chorus, but the majority of men that I had singing that day were members of the men's chorus.
Right.
He was just very impressed with our sound. He said it was the best men's sound he'd heard in a long time, certainly in this area. So he's coming to work with us some and wants to incorporate us into some music, some of the music of their group expanding into Caldwell County. So we're excited about that.
That's a big deal. That's really a big deal.
Well, it's a very nice compliment. And as I said, because I do respect him musically, it makes me feel good and feel validated for our group. So I always say I surround myself with, the best people. So
best
that's
people. But as you were talking about classical music being stuffy, I think my first exposure to classical music was Bugs Bunny.
Yes, and that's how you access people.
That's how you access people.
Yeah.
I know that's, not the deepest TV, but back in my day, that was Saturday morning.
Well, that's it. And I always felt very inferior. I grew up knowing I liked classical music, but I felt like that whole thing I talked about, I can't reach up to that iconic level and all this stuff. And I'm beneath that and all this sort of thing. But again, if you just expose people and give them a chance, they can see that things are there for them.
And you'll probably find out that some of it sounds very familiar.
Oh, sure. And that's another thing I liked about Greg. Greg could just, somebody would say, that Bugs Bunny cartoon, it had this piece, and Greg would just cut loose playing it. He could play anything just from hearing it and thinking of it. But so that's a good idea. We're going to continue to embrace singing with women's groups and college groups and high school groups. And I had started a dialogue with the director of the University of North Carolina Glee Club men's director, and that kind of fell by the wayside with all this other stuff, but I hope to rekindle that. And I just want to get a lot of people involved at a lot of levels. We had the Russian group, Lyra, came and sang with us a few years ago, and the Broyhill Foundation was kind enough to sponsor that for us. They're delightful people, and Robert Marshall, one of our singers, God forbid that I forget him, he's been a mainstay too. He's one of my go-to right-hand men. But for theater and music and everything, a great guy, great friend. But he asked yesterday, we started rehearsals at this taping for To Kill a Mockingbird yesterday, and Robert's involved in that too. And he said, I'd like to get that Russian group to come back. And I said, we may try to do that, because every year they send me information, but they're very professional. But the thing you realize is usually they send a quartet over here. It's not a huge group, maybe a quintet. But you realize, like Billy Joel said when he went to Russia, you realize that people are people, and you don't have to think that governments are what everything is based on. People are people, and those people were so genuine and so friendly. And if I may say so, a very strong Christian group. They were very, very good people and great musicians. And the only problem with that was when they were here before was when I was going through that 60-day period of my headaches and my vision and hearing problems, and it was miserable. So I lay on the pew at Lenoir Presbyterian Church with my throw-up bucket and listened to them and appreciated them very much. But I think if they come back, I'll appreciate them a lot more.
I would think so.
I thank God every day when I wake up without a headache. I say, gosh, this is wonderful.
It's a good day.
It's a good day.
So Keith, tell me again, when is the next or the first in, probably by that time, I don't even want to think how many days it
Well,
will
I counted it up to the 903.
It's been 903.
It will be 903 September 13th.
September 13th, that's the first practice. But by the time you get to your concert in November, we're adding another
2 months. Or a
2 months. Yeah. And as you probably have learned by watching this show, my math skills are not that good. So
it's fine.
That's a long time.
It's a ways away. But I just want people to save that date. Our concerts are free to the public. We do encourage donations if you're able to give, but if you don't, you don't have to give. If you're in a bad situation financially, temporarily, or period, you don't have to give. It's voluntary. But, having been down, we do need to start generating some funds again as we come back. But the concert's free to the public. It's, as I said, in the sanctuary at Lenoir Presbyterian Church at 7:30 on November the 19th, the week before Thanksgiving. We rehearse Tuesdays. We start back after Labor Day, and we go through Thanksgiving, and then sometimes we'll have a Christmas concert. We probably won't this year because of the way we're just trying to get back and get a firm grasp and get started again. And then we resume in January and usually finish in late April. Then we're off for the summer. So it's not a demanding schedule if you do sing, but those Tuesdays are at a premium. We hope all of our members will come to most of the rehearsals, but it's Tuesday night rehearsal at the church and then Saturday evening performances.
About how long does a rehearsal run? I know that it can take on maybe a little longer one night, depending on how things are going.
We generally rehearse from 7 till 9, and sometimes if it's early on or we're doing well, we'll stop about 8:45. But we don't really get longer until right before the concert. Even then, not much longer. Then we always have a Saturday morning rehearsal from 10 to 12 on the days of the performances. So we're very well versed and ready to go that night and warmed up.
Keith, while you're here, I have to ask you about the production of To Kill a Mockingbird. Can you tell us when it is again?
Sure.
When tickets will be on sale? I know we're talking about men's chorus, but you have your hands in so many pots. I can't miss an opportunity for you to talk about your theatrical productions.
And we'll come back and talk about bocce in a couple of
Yes.
weeks, so, the lawn bowling game. But anyway, the show runs October 13th, 14th, 15th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That's a Thursday through Saturday. This is always our schedule. And tickets will go on sale. I can tell you a little bit more than the last time we talked.
Right.
Tickets will go on sale officially September the 6th. I think if you look at your postcard, if you've been an attending member, you may have a chance to come in a couple of days early to buy the tickets. And tickets are $37 for dinner and the play both. They've been $35 for so long, but that's really to build in to cover the cost of credit cards when people buy online. So, and our meals cost more. They're charging us more for our meals.
Certainly.
So we encourage people to get groups together. I think this one is going to sell very well. It's got great name recognition. People are already calling about it and asking about it. And again, it's on a national tour, so we're one of the few theaters in the country to get rights to it that's not a traveling professional group. So we feel very good about that. We've got a great cast. As I said, our first rehearsal was last night, first read through. And as of this taping, and I think it's going to promise to be very, very strong. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Good.
Keith, thank you for all you're doing for the arts in our community. It's always fun to sit down and talk to you and see what's coming up.
Well, it's my pleasure, and that's, as I've said, my mantra is always, I'm smart enough to surround myself with good people, good quality people, and good quality performers. And Greg and I were talking not long before he passed about how he was so disciplined because as good as he was, he made it look effortless, but he practiced the piano 6 and 8 hours a day, every day. And I said, the thing is, you require discipline, but you can just be you preparing. I said, with my groups, whether I'm conducting a choir or directing a play, if I don't have people to do that, then it's not there. So I'm very thankful that people donate their time, but they want to do it or they wouldn't be doing it, and I love it.
And we appreciate the community volunteers, and we find that folks, especially for your plays, come from surrounding counties to participate. We
got a range of audience as well from, for several counties and through Western North Carolina. We built that up over the years, have several groups that come from Greensboro, or Greenville, South Carolina, or various places. But the only problem is someone doing a play, actually being in a play, the commute's hard.
Right.
The guy that played Jesus in Cotton Patch came from Charlotte, which was wild. And one of the guys who still may possibly be in Mockingbird, I don't want to say yet because I'm not sure, but he lives in Asheville now. And that's a stretch too. To come once or twice is one thing, but to come to 30 rehearsals and 6 performances, that's a big commitment.
That is a big commitment.
Both time and distance and with gas. But we do draw from the area. And we've got a lot of return performers, which is wonderful. We build a family with that. But we don't have like a clique, like we're not set on just automatically casting certain people. We're open to new people trying things, and I think that's part of what keeps us fresh and vibrant.
I think so too. There's always something great going on. You might have to look for it a little bit, but there's always something in our arts community going on.
Yes.
Keith, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Paige.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today, and be sure to mark your calendar for performances of To Kill a Mockingbird and the Caldwell Men's Chorus.